Hey, it's Katie, and today on Katie's Take 5 Friday, I'm going to be counting down the top 5 most underrated Pokemon. Okay, so in case you guys don't live on the internet like I do, I feel like it was everywhere yesterday, but a trailer for a new Pokemon mobile app called Pokemon Go came out. It was a live action trailer. It was incredible. Take a look. Now that is how you sell a game, my friends, because honestly that was the coolest trailer and it made me want to play it immediately. I want the game right now and I think it is so awesome. It was so exciting to see and I really can't wait for the game to come out now. Good job, Pokemon. Good job, Nintendo. You have sold me on your game. So in honor of this awesome Pokemon Go trailer coming out this week, I wanted to make a Pokemon video and I got to thinking I really wanted to make a top 5 most underrated Pokemon because there are so many Pokemon that are popular because they're really adorable or because they are really powerful, and I kind of wanted to compile my own little list of Pokemon that I feel are the most underrated. I feel like I need to add a giant disclaimer, guys. Yes, I grew up with Gen 1. Yes, Gen 1 is my favorite. You can call me a Gen 1er if you'd like to, but I am not one of those people that's like, Gen 1 is the only Pokemon ever and everything else is terrible and I hate it and I won't give it a shot. That's not me, and I definitely do not hate new Pokemon or any of the other generations or games. I play the new games. I just happen to love Gen 1 and the original 151 Pokemon. So today for my list, I wanted to make top 5 most underrated Pokemon and they are all going to be from Gen 1. Here we go. Starting us out at number 5, Magikarp. Magikarp is a silly looking fish, water type Pokemon. It happens to be a Pokemon that we do see a lot, but I feel like the majority of us kind of overlook Magikarp a lot. I've even heard Magikarp being referred to as a sad little pathetic Pokemon. Poor Magikarp. And you know what? Magikarp may not be the most powerful Pokemon. At least he's got his signature move Splash, and that one is okay. But you cannot overlook Magikarp because of what it evolves into. You have to start out as a Magikarp if you want a Gyarados. And in my opinion, I think Gyarados is one of the most powerful Pokemon. For me, growing up, I played Pokemon Stadium all the time, and Gyarados was one of those Pokemon that always had to be on my team because he destroyed everybody. Like, no one could ever beat my Gyarados. I mean, you use Rock Slide on pretty much any Pokemon, bye! So I feel like poor little Magikarp is so underrated because he just kind of seems like a little stupid fish, but he's not, okay? He's got feelings, and he is going to evolve into this really, really awesome Pokemon that you are going to want on your team. Number 4, Sandshrew. Okay, for me, Sandshrew has always kind of been a favorite Pokemon. Not necessarily one I would have on all of my teams, but I always thought Sandshrew was so cute, and a lot of people seem to overlook Sandshrew. Sandshrew is a ground type Pokemon. He kind of looks like a little ground mouse. He's actually really cute. But at the same time, Sandshrew was pretty powerful. Not the most powerful Pokemon ever, but he did have Earthquake and Dig as some of his attacks. So I feel like Sandshrew had potential and was an awesome Pokemon to have, but everyone just wanted kind of the popular Pokemon, and I never really heard a lot of people talk about Sandshrew. Not to mention, one of my very favorite things ever are the mini games in Pokemon Stadium, and Sandshrew had his own mini game. It was called Dig, 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 and you just had to dig as fast as you could, and whoever could dig the hole the quickest basically won. And I loved it. I loved Sandshrew, and maybe it's because of Pokemon Stadium, but I just feel like it's a Pokemon that is so underrated. Number 3, Mr. Mime. Mr. Mime is a psychic fairy type Pokemon, and I feel like he's a little bit underrated because most people are very afraid of him because he is a very scary, clownish, miming Pokemon. And I feel like as a kid, it scared a lot of us. Mr. Mime was rarely talked about. No one ever really wanted a Mr. Mime on their team. Honestly, I always thought that Mr. Mime was kind of hilarious because if you tried to interrupt him while he was miming, he'd slap you. And I thought that was really funny. But at the same time, he isn't exactly the most powerful Pokemon. It's not really his fault he's so creepy and scary looking. but as a Pokemon, I feel like he's very underrated. I mean, an ability that Mr. Mime had was to soundproof, basically, so anytime a Pokemon would try to attack with any sort of sound attack, he'd be immune to it, which is kind of cool because then your attack wouldn't be effective and he could just slap you. Number 2, Magmar. Magmar is a Pokemon that I never hear anyone talking about because there are a lot of really cool fire-type Pokemon. Everyone always talks about Charmander and Charizard, Vulpix, Ponyta, Rapidash. You hear a lot about fire Pokemon. In my opinion, I think they are the coolest Pokemon, and I always really liked Magmar. Now, my reasoning for liking Magmar may be a little bit different than everyone else's, but I love Pokemon Snap. And in Pokemon Snap, when you're going by the volcanoes, obviously there are Magmar there. And if you throw an apple and a Pokemon gets in the way, Magmar will just light them up. Even if it's another Magmar, they don't care. They'll just breathe fire and destroy whatever is in front of them. And I really liked that about Pokemon Snap. I thought Magmar was hilarious. And I would always try to find those little secret things that would get Magmar to basically set another Pokemon on fire. But I do remember that if you threw an apple, a Charmander would walk right in front of Magmar, and then Magmar would literally destroy the Charmander, but then Charmander evolved into Charmeleon. So that was really cool. Magmar wasn't exactly the most powerful type Pokemon, but that was okay. I liked him. He still actually defeated a lot of foes for me if I played on Pokemon Stadium or even in the cards. So I had to put Magmar on my list. Alright, we are down to number 1, and number 1 is kind of like a very obscure Pokemon that I feel is completely underrated. But to me, the number 1 most underrated Pokemon is Lickitung. I feel like there's probably some kids out there today that are like, what's a Lickitung? Because that was a very strange Pokemon, but I remember Lickitung so vividly. Always one of my favorites, but no one else liked Lickitung ever. I always thought Lickitung was so cute. He had like a 7-foot long tongue and he would use it to basically paralyze his enemies. It was just like the most random Pokemon, and I always felt like he was so underrated. But people always want the cute Pokemon or the Pokemon that are super duper powerful, but you know what? Lickitung had his place in the Pokemon world, okay? And he was awesome. Also, what stands out very vividly in my mind is that in Pokemon Stadium, there was a Lickitung minigame where basically you'd all be Lickitungs and you'd have to eat up sushi, and certain ones were more points and then some of them were bad for you, and it was the most bizarre game, but it was so much fun. It was actually one of my very favorite mini games from Pokemon Stadium, and I loved that the Pokemon Stadium mini games kind of used the obscure or underrated Pokemon for their mini games, and I always really liked Lickitung. So it was awesome to see that he got his own mini game. Well, there you have it. Those are my top 5 most underrated Pokemon. Yeah, some of them were a little strange. Maybe I should have called it top 5 strangest Pokemon? But maybe I'll save that for another day, because to me, I think those Pokemon are underrated. But I want to know from you guys, what Pokemon do you think is the most underrated? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Make sure you click that button right there to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss my next video. And just in case you missed my last videos, click down below to check them out.